Thank you very much, Kenny, for arranging this today, and of course, Paul Johnson for your time. I know these Q&As are quite popular over here on the Power Metals Telegram group. So, of course, the CEO, Paul Johnson of Power Metal Resources, will be answering shareholder questions today. For those that don't know me, I'm sure most people probably do by now. I'm Mark Fairbairn from Stockbox. I'll be hosting the session and just fielding the questions to Paul. So let's get straight into it. Paul, just maybe to start us off, I don't know how many new people are in the Telegram room, but certainly existing shareholders might find it useful as well. If you can maybe, such a vast portfolio of projects that Power Metal Resources have, I wonder if you can go through and give us the status quo of each project, where it's at the moment, and what's going on, if you can, in 5 minutes or so.
Yes, sure. Hello, everybody. I'm only going to talk about 7. You'll be pleased to know, Mark.
Okay.
To keep it under control. Just over a week ago, I showed Michelle, my wife, a diagram, and it was Malopo Farms. And it was the figure 2, I think, on the announcement that had the pretty substantial, shall we say, conductor. And we just clipped the edge of the conductor with hole K16. And as we're having a discussion about this, my 8-year-old son tried to interrupt. And his mum said, you know, I'm talking with your dad. Just, I'll speak to you in a second. So we finished the conversation and I wandered off. And Thomas followed me. And he said, Daddy, he said, have we found metal? So I thought, blimey, he's on the right lines. I said, we have, and we're looking into it. And he said, how much metal have we found? I thought, well, he's moving towards geology here, which could get dangerous. And I said, well, we don't know. And that's what we're going to do next when we have a look with a big drill rig. And then his third question got me, and that was, are we rich? Well, I suppose, you know, you can answer that question various ways. But I said, well, we might be. And he's tracking me down. I know he wants to spend it on online kind of Robux, I think they call them. But his enthusiasm inspired me a little bit, because that's what we're here for as investors. And as much as I run a public company, and believe you me, it's torturous on occasions. It is really, if we're doing it properly, we're doing it with the spirit of a private investor. And with the construction of Power Metal Resources over the last 3 years, that's exactly what I've tried to do. I've tried to turn this business from merely a gamble on a project that may or may not come off, and generally exploration projects do not come off, into a business constructed in a manner where we can almost make it an assurance that we will win. We can never be 100% certain, but I've built the business with a model where we're continuously creating value, what they call on the discussion sites and social media as jam tomorrow. Well, the jam has been delivered in some cases, because we now have First Class Metals listed. And First Class was a business we injected just over £200,000 into back in early 2021, sold the project package for $1 million to First Class in September 2021. This is a package of projects in the Schreiber-Hemlo area in Ontario, Canada. And currently, I haven't got the absolute latest price, but that package is now worth 1.7 to 1.8 million pounds of stock on the main market in London. We can't trade that stock for another 11 months. We're in a lock-in arrangement. And in fairness, neither would we want to, because we know the quality of the Hemlo North project, which was the main project we vended into First Class. And we know the quality of the McKellar project, which was a smaller project we vended into First Class. And we believe that First Class Metals will perform tremendously well. So much so that if it goes up by circa 100, 150%, then our 1.7 million turns into over 4 million pounds of value on the balance sheet. So we're very happy to hold. So that was an example of crystallization. Other examples of crystallization include Golden Metal Resources and First Development Resources. These are 2 packages that we created in the wrapper of Power Metal, and then have spun them out into their own independent vehicles. They are both PLC vehicles. One, Golden Metal, is focused on Nevada, USA, and particularly on the Pilot Mountain tungsten, copper, silver, zinc project. And the other first development is focused on that major area, the Patterson region of Western Australia, and also the Celta project in the Northern Territory, just up the road from Nolan's Bore, a very substantial rare earths deposit held by Arafura. So those are two vehicles we created. You saw it happen on the markets, and we put them into PLC status. We raised £750,000 for gold and metal and 1.125 million for first development in pre-IPO funding to assist with the IPO process. And they are, in the case of gold and metal, very close to IPO, and in the case of first development, they are moving down that pathway right now. We have other crystallization events that have happened or are in process. We disposed of one of our uranium projects right and back in the Athabasca Basin into Tethers Financial, and that will be a newly named, I think some of you may have guessed the name, uranium company that will be listed in London. We have new Ballarat Gold Corporation, which is focused on the Victoria Goldfields of Australia, where we have 49.9% stake, and that vehicle is planned IPO, and we want to get that going as soon as possible. So there are multiple crystallization events. And you may ask why we do this. Why do we take projects in? And if they're so good, why do we vend them out? Well, because the exploration game is high risk. The chances are most of the projects that you see in the companies that you hold will never amount to anything. But one thing is certain, our space will go through a revaluation in the junior resource sector that will send almost every stock considerably higher, and will send the good quality, well-presented stocks with real potential, and that includes, in my view, our vehicles, to dramatically higher levels. And we build our balance sheet, and through that, we create success of our own making. And we don't even have to find a discovery. We just have to have vehicles that have the potential to do so, that can excite and engage the market. Ironically, of course, one of our spin-out vehicles, gold and metal, already has a very substantial discovery within it, which is the Pilot Mountain project. So with the crystallization side of the business talked about, I want to talk very briefly about the exploration side. There was always going to be a time when we narrowed down our focus, and we made sure that we didn't overload the RNS feed with endless announcements. I know some of you liked it, some of you hated it. I was a bit in between, to be honest, because you have to do a lot of work for each RNS. But we focused immediately on the Malopo Farms complex in Botswana. This was a nickel copper PGMs project that we'd done some work on over the last few years with our partners Kalahari Key. As of 3 months ago, or just over 3 months ago, we held a 53% effective economic interest. We wanted more because we think this project is quite unique, and we were able to secure a deal with Kalahari Key shareholders to increase our interest, subject to local approvals, to circa 88%. That gave us the incentive to get cracking, and we did some further geophysics, as you saw from the announcement last Tuesday, which produced some startling results. Now, I'm sure you want to talk about that today, but we are pushing ahead at pace with all the administration behind launching the next stage drill program. We have some quite incredible targets. We are highly excited, and alongside our investors and as private investors, we can see the potential of this wonderful opportunity. Also in Botswana, we have the Tati Greenstone Belt project, which is focused on gold at the moment. And we're doing drilling right now. Now, there were some pictures published on Twitter, and there will be more, and they will be loaded up to our website, so you can see them if you want to look on the website. We're drilling adjacent to the Cherished Hope gold mine, and we're drilling looking for high-grade gold near surface, the perfect mix. We got some great results, actually, from the last drill program we did away from Cherished Hope, but in a similar trend. And we found 5 0.17 grams a ton over 3 meters from 9 meters downhole. So this is shallow stuff. We're quite excited by the prospects that the Tati drilling may present us with that project. And we felt, as much as we didn't want to interrupt the progress and the focus on Malopo, we felt very much that this is something we had to do. Reverse circulation drilling of this type is very cheap, by the way. So it's quite a good exercise to get lots of information without too much cost. And it's very quick. So Tati Greenstone Belt project running right now. And then the Athabasca. We've had teams working in the Athabasca across 3 of our properties there. We have 10 in total. 1 right and back is vended, subject to admission of that new co. But 9 we still retain. And 3 of those 9 have been subject to a detailed field exploration, which is ongoing at the moment. So there will be further news to flow from that in the not too distant future. So at the moment, from an exploration perspective, we are focused and active, particularly as the power metal business on Malopo Farms, Tati Greenstone and Athabasca. There's an intense amount of activity across the business. Mita Morris, who is our investor relations manager, is sat staring at me now. And she has produced all of our quality materials that you see on our website and that we publish on Twitter, with the support of a quite incredible team around us, both internally, on the payroll, I think the phrase is, and also externally, those who provide us with advisory support. It's been a delight to see the share price adjust in the last week or so. It's certainly not surprised us. When we got the information from Malopo, we knew it was a significant thing. But then we've also always known that Malopo was a significant project, much as across our portfolio, we know many other areas are significant. And I suspect as a company in the next few months, we will see some quite dramatic developments. But we don't know the precise nature of them. We don't know exactly what will happen. As we put on our promotional video recently, we don't know what the outcome of our work will be. But there's one thing for sure: unless you're prepared to work relentlessly in this business, you will not be, in the medium term, a success in natural resource exploration. So that's me done, Mark. Over to you.
Okay. Well, before I just go to the questions, I just want to pick up on one of those points. You talk about crystallization events. I know it's a big theme of yours, Paul, and you've named a few crystallization things that have happened. But where is the crystallization going to come for shareholders, and indeed your son, who wants to go and spend all your money on online gaming?
Got to be careful about spending your money online.
Yeah, you do.
The number one crystallization for shareholders is driving the share price up.
Yep.
And there are, from time to time, good opportunities for other forms of value return, and we're setting up for that, as you know, with the various legal exercises to enable us to distribute shares or cash in the future. If I've got this right, there will be an inordinate amount of value created in our business, and it will be possible to distribute. It doesn't always work for individual shareholders, and we have to think very carefully about the taxation aspect to this. Capital gains tax in the UK is 20%. Dividend tax in the UK is in the 30s, depending on level of it depends on your level of income. It's based on your effectively what is your total income compared to the various dividend tax bands, but it can go up to nearly 40%. So we have to think carefully about that, and we are doing.
Okay, but driving the share price is the number one crystallization value event for shareholders, and that's where your focus and the focus of the team and the work that's going on is at the moment.
You didn't get too many people with the Greatland Gold story complaining that the company hadn't paid a dividend.
No. Okay, excellent. Well, let's go into the questions, because that is what this is all about today. So I have, I think, about 10 But 11 questions already submitted, and I do encourage people in the group here to either type your questions, or potentially we can open the mics and you can ask the questions directly to Paul. But let's start with the first one I have, and this one always comes up, Paul. Any update on where POW are with recruiting new board members?
Yeah. Well, it has been right. How can I put this? Yeah, it's active, and we've been quite careful on this to get the right board members in. It has taken longer than we anticipated, albeit we have been recruiting for more than 3 boards: Golden Metal, First Development Resources, Power Metal Resources, and other vehicles. So we've actually done quite a bit of recruitment, but we haven't yet announced with regard to Power Metal what the board will be like. It's coming, and I can't give specifics. They don't allow me to, and fair enough. But we've been very cautious and careful with it. It is to a degree the mothership of the various interests that we have and that we create, and it has to be the board has to be properly constructed. At the moment, we have a great board that's enabled us to do what we needed to do so far, and we now need to get more professional with regard to the board construction. We need technical capability on the board. We don't have geologists. We have lawyers, a lot of legal skills, broking skills, accounting skills, that kind of thing, and we need to broaden that. So we're working on it. I have to say it has been slightly slowed because, of course, we have such an intense amount of activity in our business. That adds in another factor, but we're on it.
Okay, you're on it. Good to hear. Okay, so the next question that I have is, do the resources required for Molopo change the plan in terms of other projects or future raising?
Or future? Yeah, well, it's interesting because there are various ways to handle the Molopo program. First of all, it will be made clear. It's very difficult to answer this question. Actually, I do like the difficult ones. As a director, you have to be very careful. The Molopo program, we are absolutely fine with. Trust me, and we would not have any concerns whatsoever about anything that we announce to market that we're doing. We've got the project is unique. It is extremely large scale. It is extremely potentially impacting on our business, its valuation and its forward strategy. And we have to consider all these things in our business every day for every project. And when we consider if we do something, how it will affect us operationally, strategically, and financially, but we are absolutely fine. I can say I did have this question on an interview in a similar form recently, which is why I'm chuckling. If there is a major discovery at Molopo, I think the question was, will it change the business and how you approach things? And the answer is definitively yes, because you don't have that type of success in a company and then quietly rumble on doing everything else in the same way as you did before. It changes things. So we don't know what the full extent of the resources required for Molopo are. We certainly do know what the costs of the planned drill program are, and we do know what we're intending to do, and we are totally comfortable with that.
Okay, good. Now, how many data rooms are open throughout the portfolio in general? In general terms, what has been serious contender response?
Okay, so we've got, excluding writing back, 6 data rooms already done at the Athabasca Basin projects. We are working on the other 3 now. We've got data room open on Molopo. Obviously, we've talked about that. Mm-hmm. We've actually got a smattering of data rooms that are being constructed and built in certain other areas as well, because there is across our portfolio and the type of projects that we have and the commodities that we're focused on and the jurisdictions, there's quite a large amount of interest coming in. we're moving towards a situation with our data storage and analysis that we will have data rooms on almost everything, in fairness, within a few months. We're amassing huge amounts of information, and in our business, information is powerful, of course, in terms of being able to guide exploration internally and also being able to demonstrate value for a project to an external third party that might be interested.
Okay, excellent. Now, the recently released 2D picture of the K16 borehole at the Malopo Farms complex doesn't give us information on the volume of the blue high conductivity zone. Did the survey reach limits of the blue high conductivity zone in all 3 dimensions?
Okay, so I'm not an expert on this. In fairness, I'm an accountant, and I do try and stay away from trying to profess an in-depth knowledge of the geological and geophysical side to the work that we do. It was a single line transect, the survey that we published, part of the expanded geophysics program that we're doing with the new surveys that we put out. Is coverage over 1.6 and 1.14, which will give us the ability to visualize the targets in 3D. So we're doing that work now. In fairness, if you look at the size and scale of what we've already seen, we're pretty comfortable the anomaly is quite big, to say the least. But we just want to model it in a little bit more detail, and that will give us more kind of potential volumetric data.
Okay, so further work continuing there to
Yeah.
fully visualize what is supposedly comfortably very big. Okay.
Yeah, that's effectively what the work is over K16, K114. That's why we're doing that work, because that gives us that extra information. So that's a good question.
Okay. Now, the geophysics survey picture with just the geophysics information on it shows a second smaller high conductivity zone in the bottom right-hand corner. Is this second zone close enough to the drill K16 that was clipped to be able to mine both zones from one sunk shaft?
Now we're going into mining.
Now you're going into feasibility studies.
Well, I tell you what's happening. The additional surveys we're running will give us more information on that conductor. Now, I think did you say it was smaller? Well, we don't really know, because as you saw from the image, we only clipped the edge of it in the bottom right hand side of the image, so we don't really know what we're dealing with yet. But it certainly is a drill target. And it's just a question of how many other high priority targets we identify, and where effectively this target that's been picked up in the question sits on that list. But we're anticipating there will be quite a few targets to go at. So I don't know if this particular conductor will be within this program. It may well be, but we'll find out soon enough.
Okay, well that's kind of the next question. Will this second area be drilled in this campaign? So you're effectively saying you're not sure at the moment.
I think it's definitely on the target list. We're assessing size and scale, and then we'll do that. We'll look at that target alongside all the others. We already know we're drilling into K16, south of that hole, and we know we'll be putting more than one hole into that big conductor for obvious reasons. Otherwise, we don't know for sure what the order will be. And also, what was it Mike Tyson said? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Well, planning is one thing, delivery is another. And as we get the drills running and we start to see what the geology looks like, that may well completely change our plans. If we find something particularly interesting, naturally, you might want to zone in and focus in a particular area, for example, on one target, rather than moving around. So we're keeping it flexible. We're pretty sure where the first 2 holes will go, and thereafter we'll see what happens.
Okay, excellent. Now, does the deal to take the Malopo project from the holding of 53% to circa 88% have to be finalised before diamond drilling can fully commence at Malopo? And am I also correct in saying that POW are covering circa 88% of the drill costs too?
Oh, that's a good question, and quite tricky to answer in the circumstances.
Okay.
No is the answer. We do not have to wait until everything is finalised. As long as you have the relevant approvals to undertake a drill program, you can do so. And we have the environmental management approvals in place. We've obviously done the liaison locally with regard to the program, and that's what the contractors will do, the drill contractors will do. So no, we don't have to wait. This is an operational program within an existing prospecting license held in good standing, so we can continue whenever we wish to.
Okay. Now, moving on to a different project, what happened to Kasinka in the DRC?
Oh, well, in our annual reports, we provided a breakdown of our position on Kasinka. For one thing, over the last 3 years, we've been able to build a quite remarkable portfolio of interests because the market's been a bit difficult and challenging. So many projects have been available that in a normalized market would not have been. We've had to rank those projects and we've had to say, look, which do we think are most attractive? Where do we want to spend our money? Where do we feel most comfortable? And we came to the conclusion that there were various things that needed to happen with Kasinka. Security of tenure, clear geological planning, clear operational plans, a clear strategic outlook, proper environment in which to operate, safe and secure holding position for the company, much of which is articulated in the annual report for Power for the year ended 30 September 21, which was released earlier on this year. We effectively took a decision to back away from that project, if that's the right phrase, until we were satisfied that things were in better order. And that's what we've done. Quite frankly, when you look at the range of projects we have and the areas that we operate and the type of potential that we have across the portfolio, I'm not too concerned about individual projects not meeting the mark. And we do have to show our spurs on occasions. We wrote down the Ivory Coast back in, I'll get my timing right, 19. We wrote down Cameroon in 20. We wrote down the DRC Kasinka projects in 21, and we'll continue to do that. We will write down projects that do not deliver to the level that we require them to deliver. And that's my job, not to spend your money, shareholders' money, endlessly trying to keep everything alive, but to say at some point, either shape up or ship out.
Okay, good. So you're not afraid to jog a project on, so to speak, if it's just not meeting the criteria. Okay, excellent, or potential value for shareholders. That's good to hear. You don't get attached emotionally too much to individual projects, Paul. Okay, so a quick note on Heneti would be good. We haven't had an update since May when the news mentioned positive but not significant nickel findings and some ideas around lithium exploration there. The idea was to develop a strategy with Katoro, but if this requires significant financing, can you update on the JV?
Only what's in the public domain. Some projects move quicker than others. You know our approach on life with regard to projects that we're eager to push things on. We don't take breaks on projects deliberately. We try and push as hard as we can. There are those sometimes that don't progress in the public arena as fast as you would like to see. And it's not for want of trying, or it's not for very good reason that you might not see an update. So we do push everything. Heneti, we feel, is a very significant opportunity. We feel it requires more investment. It requires more drilling. Ultimately, it remains, in our view, a particularly attractive project, and we want to push on. But I'm not alone. Any joint venture situation requires you to work with your partner and to publish updates at the same time, usually. And we are working with our partners on this one, and I hope, and we will be pushing for this to get further updates to market as soon as we can.
Okay, well, there's another question that is here again on Haneti. Will the Bayou project be getting any upcoming exploration work after the 31st of May 2020 RNS stated rock sampling recorded strong lithium mineralization was present, and the tantalum values recorded of 2 samples were between 10 to 15 times higher than what it was being viewed, than what is viewed as being economically interesting?
Yeah, I mean, this demonstrates the prospectivity in that particular area, and on lots of our materials, I think we class Haneti as polymetallic, and we certainly the search for nickel copper is matched with significant amounts of gold potential, significant amounts of lithium potential, and all sorts of different things. So again, difficult to answer the question specifically, but I can tell you that from Power Metals' perspective, we are not backing off on this project. We are, and it has been since March 19, one of the first new projects, well, the first new project we took on board. We're quite eager to see Haneti progress dramatically and substantially. So we're doing what we can to make that happen.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much. That is the 11 questions that we gathered prior to the event. I see some have been put in the group now, and any more, please, people just fire away, type them out, and I'll ask them to pause. So the first one, are you as excited about the outcome of Malopo Farms as you were about the copper find at Metal Tiger?
Yeah. How could I put this? The copper find at Metal Tiger was interesting. When we first pegged the ground, or did the deal with MOD, our partner, back in, I think it was summertime 15, and we announced it a little bit later. We got lots of abuse for pegging land in the desert, I think, as someone said, you know, why are you wasting our money in that part of the world? And then, of course, it delivered a dramatic return, less than it should have been, in fairness. It should have been a lot higher than it was. But it still was a circa 10 bagger, I think, from the time when we first invested in the KCB. Oh no, I think when you've had a taste of what the major discovery can deliver into a company and how it can change shareholders' lives and your own lives if you're a big shareholder, then the excitement of something like this is far greater. It has to be said. There's greater nervousness because you do want to achieve that positive outcome. We live in a regulated environment where we have to be cautious and careful on what we say. So you'll see on our announcements the things like planned, we believe that, and all these qualifying terms and words that so we don't seem too rampy, which is fair enough. We don't want to incite chaos in our share price by being too crazy. But I would say I'm definitely more excited about the Malopo opportunity than back in the day with T3 Metal Tiger. I think it's important to have that experience as an individual running a company because you understand the implications of a major discovery, and they are many and varied. It means that I can take actions now, and they already have been really, to prepare the company for that kind of outcome. We've been staffing up for some time and building our resource capability in-house, something which at Metal Tiger I didn't have a great deal of support with. And we have the team in place. We will take more actions in the coming weeks and months to prepare our business for what might be. And we're focused a little bit at the moment, it has to be said, on pages and pages of documentation, which goes with this type of thing. And so it's become a little bit of an admin task just right now, but we're looking forward to it cracking on.
Okay, good. And you say you're more excited. Well, that's good to hear. I myself do remember the Metal Tiger days and how exciting that was back on at the time, the private Twitter groups and everyone getting excited when the suspension was in Australia, but what may or may not have been found. There were many sort of sleepless nights, I think, had by private investors all around that time. So it'd be nice to get something similar again from a company in the future. Just picking up just on what you said there, just to follow on, having gone through that with Metal Tiger? You mentioned some things that you perhaps are better prepared for. Can you know, what things did you specifically learn, do you think, from that experience, Metal Tiger, that puts you and POW better placed to deal with a potential major discovery?
Plan for a significant increase in work. Take a whole look in the round at your business if you get that kind of discovery, and work out where you need to focus. There may be occasions where you need to look at the portfolio and assets that you might have thought would continue in the business as being, you know, wholly owned and explored and developed, that you would need to think about crystallization to simplify the job. Look at budgets and allocation of capital immediately to make sure that it's focused on the key projects where the discovery lies. Look at where you need additional resource internally in terms of staffing and externally in terms of advice. Make sure that they had very good points, which I've completely forgotten now. Understand very quickly what the implications will be on the business going forward in terms of strategic development and business model. All these kind of things kick in. I'm very much a person that, I'll be careful, I might sound like somebody else in a second. I'm very much a person that likes to deliver on what I say I'm going to do. And the problem is, when you get a major discovery, is that you might have to change course of certain things. People might have thought you were going down a particular route with something, and you might have to stop it. And because you need to focus. If we get a major nickel discovery here of the right type, then the valuation levels of this business will be very, very different. The level of interest in this project will be dramatic. People will be throwing money, selling their grandmothers to buy shares in the company at much, much higher levels. There's a degree of responsibility that goes with that. And part of that is definitely, for sure, business modeling.
Okay, good. May we get an update on the POW Junior Resource Fund, as there is scant information available apart from the note on the website?
Yeah, that was always meant to be, in fairness, that was part of our business that we said, look, we're not just going to sit there with capital and do nothing with it. We're going to take some of it and we're going to make some money from it if we can. I've spent much of my time as a private investor over the years, and I've had a degree of success. Usually it has to be said in very strong markets, which is not a surprise to anyone. But so we took a bit of our capital, we announced what we were doing with it, and we've been investing it. And generally speaking, we wouldn't talk about it. I mean, don't we put out enough RNS already, in fairness? You know, to have another one focused on this would be perhaps a bit too much. But I do recognise that perhaps in the full year and half year reports, we will probably need to make further information available, and potentially even in the quarterly reports that we produce on this side of the business. Okay.
Now, will POW be releasing MLEM diagrams for target K1 to 14? Oh, sorry, it's a K114, sorry.
Yes. Okay. Because we've released K16, we haven't yet with K114, and there's obviously 1.3 and 2.3, and the work that we're doing there. I would say yes, I think we will be, but we only release information when it's finalized and we're happy with things. And things like diagrams, and you often have to do a fair amount of work to make sure that it's accurate and reliable. We naturally focused on K16 materials, as you can see, because of the size and scale of the conductor. So we were able to release that, but other materials will be coming out.
Okay, excellent. Are POW looking at a joint venture for specific targets, e.g. K16, or would any potential joint venture consist of a drilling campaign across multiple Malapa Farms complex targets?
Oh, that's a great question. Open to everything is always the default position for any junior resource company. let's deal with this now, actually, if that's okay, because I'm sure there's going to be other questions on this about. Let me say to everybody that when we put into an announcement that we are, liaising with third parties, this is something you'll see commonly, and that could mean that you're speaking to the milkman about your projects, quite frankly. But what it should mean is that you are dealing with significant parties who have a specific interest in what you're doing. So if we put within an announcement, as we did, that we are liaising with third parties, it is meaningful, documented, supportable commentary. We don't put it in to spoof the market and to get everyone overexcited. What we do is we're showing that we're thinking about this project properly. We're thinking about making sure that we have access to the right resources, and that includes managerial, it includes technical, and it includes financial, that other parties can bring. It means that we're raising awareness in some cases of our project interests, providing information through data rooms, putting ourselves in the position to open ourselves up for potential transactions with parties, but also making sure people are aware, so that if the project progresses as we hope, that we don't just sit there wafting in the breeze for months on end, but we have the right contacts and connections in place. When can you do any form of deal? Well, deals can take many and varied different structures. You can have exclusivity arrangements. Those familiar with Greatland Gold over the years will remember an exclusivity arrangement that was in place with Newmont Mining over the Ernst Giles projects in Western Australia, that saw the share price, was contributed to the share price rising from about 0.2, 0.3 pence a share up to over 2.5. Now, that didn't work out, but of course, Javieron did. So you can have exclusivity arrangements. You can have earn-in arrangements where a company will agree to a contract that says they will spend, I don't know, you can make it up, $50 million over 5 years to earn 70% of a project. That can be quite a useful thing to have, because then it shows, any firm that's putting 50 million or 25 million or whatever on the table is some size and scale. But it means that you're giving away quite a large amount of the project quite early on in exchange for that support that might be available from that third party. So the prior to discovery earnings are perfectly doable, but might not be the right thing to do. And you certainly have to make sure that what you're left with at the end is controlled. And one of the things that bothers me about these transactions is that you might end up with 30% at the end, but if there's a major discovery and it's a contributing 30%, you have to be sure you can raise the money necessary to stand your ground and not get diluted to death. So then you can wait. You can go and do exploration yourself and put the first holes in, and that can lead to disproportionate value generation. You make a major discovery in an asset which is easy to drill out after discovery. Nice, theoretically, the Malopo target K16 does fall into that kind of definition. It's a block under the ground, not too far away from surface for this type of thing. That if we put one drill hole in and we get very fortunate, then the valuation of that project dramatically changes. People will still engage with you from external sources, and they will be very enthused and want to help you take it forward. So there's many and varied ways of doing these transactional deals, and each project requires a different thought process and potentially a different structure. Now, just in terms of the mechanics of this, if a partner, a potential partner, engages with you, a third party, as we call them in generic language, then almost all of these parties, they will have an initial conversation with you about life, the universe, and everything, and then they will ask you to sign an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. And that NDA prohibits you from talking specifically about their organization, about their engagement with you, and pretty much about anything to do with that discussion. If you hear or see any directors of companies overtly indicating that parties may be engaged with them I can tell you that it isn't going to work out well for that business, because it will be almost certainly a direct breach of the NDA. It will almost certainly be a breach of regulatory disclosure for the markets, and it will most likely put any sensible, serious, and large-scale third party off ever doing business with you ever. Because if you can't keep quiet about their engagement with you, other than, of course, discussing with those that need to know within your business, then they seriously don't want to get involved. It's not worth the trauma to them to do that. So the concept of joint ventures, earnings, and acquisitions of projects are always very difficult to properly give the market the full extent of what you might be up to at any one point in time. And very much from lots of different perspectives, it is only when a transaction is complete that you can announce and actually tell people what you've been up to. So that's the background to this very tricky and thorny area, because I did think to myself, Mark, that so many people, when they get these difficult questions, just say we can't talk about that. Mm-hmm. And maybe that is more speculation, but that's not what we're on about in this business. We just want people to know these things are sometimes more complicated than everyone would like them to be, especially when you're dealing in sensitive projects at sensitive times.
Indeed, yes, it's definitely a serious subject, and I appreciate the in-depth answer there. I think the biggest thing you mentioned there was making sure you're left with something that you can control, and it's in the best interests of your shareholders. Okay, so let's move on to another question that's come in here. Any idea on the width of the K16 target, i.e. in an east-west direction, and will any holes be stepped out in an east-west direction?
Okay, so just going back to that brief note before, that's what the follow-up surveys will help us to do, to get much more kind of 3D structure. So we should be able to provide more on that hopefully quite soon. And so yes, I mean, in theory, the position of the holes may be dependent on that information as well.
Okay. K16 target extends down to at least 1,000 meters. Can the RC drill rig go to this depth, drill down to this depth, and will we drill to this depth if mineralization continues to this depth?
Well, it won't be an RC rig, reverse circulation. That's what we're using at Tarty. That's for shallower targets. In terms of going down, in terms of going down to the levels that we're talking about, theoretically, I could be horribly wrong on this. Actually, let me think for a second. I think we can probably, with these rigs that we're looking at, I think it's down to 1,000 meters.
Okay.
Look, it's not an episode of Journey to the Center of the Earth. What we're looking for is as close to the surface as possible, for obvious economic reasons, as high a grade as possible, of the right type, of nickel. We're looking very simply for an increased intensity of the mineralization that we saw in K16 first hole. We're looking for as much metal as we can find, and we don't know precisely how deep we will go. And when we get into the target zone, we will have geologists on site. And noticed in the RNS the other day, we actually made a point of saying we're going to have the team properly on site, core inspection, core splitting, analysis, selection of sampling, dispatch to labs efficiently, and all these different things, so that we can take a view. And sometimes you can get into interesting mineralization and you want to continue a hole. It doesn't always actually, pay off. And sometimes it's better to start another hole and can keep going. And sometimes you don't know what you've got. I mean, almost always you don't know what you've got in these things until you get the assays back. But you can get an indication, as we did at K16 itself. The core that was sent off for sampling was visually inspected, as we said in the announcements at the time. And in fact, I noticed that Oliver has his hand up right now, Mark. And as Oliver is the geologist responsible for this, rather than me waffling on, why don't can we let Oliver on?
I'm sure we can let Oliver on. That would be yeah. Hi, Oliver. Yeah, we've got you.
How's everyone doing? Yeah, just to echo what Paul's saying there. So the rig that we're currently going to be bringing on site is capable of drilling down to 1,100 meters depth. And Paul is exactly right. We will certainly, if we are in mineralization, continue that hole, and we will push the limits of the drill rig. So the reason we brought on a bigger rig is for that reason exactly, which gives us the flexibility to push the hole if things are going as well as we hope they will be.
Okay, excellent. Good. Thank you for jumping in there, Oliver. That's very much appreciated. And that covers that question. Okay, Paul, a question on share price, which is always a good one, isn't it? Have you in the past stated what you want the share price on Power you are hoping for?
Yeah. Well, what I'm hoping for is a liquidity event or event of material nature. And when you get those, so a discovery, for example, I mean, we had one to a degree, a little bit last week with the geophysics update, but major liquidity events in the business drive the volume dramatically higher. And if it's good news, will drive the price dramatically higher. You can go into some parabolic stages in these share price adjustments. It's very difficult to predict what a share price, could or should be very often. I think as a business, if I look at our project portfolio overall, we probably have 10 very significant things within it, projects or investments or whatever. And we need one of those to deliver for us to make a very significant return, I think, as over a positive cycle in the junior resource space, which I believe, there's that word again, I believe we're entering into. If we have 2 successes, then, even better. If we have 3, then I suspect many people will be able to change their lives quite dramatically. And that's what we're heading towards as a business here, through that portfolio approach of both investments and operational projects, to find those liquidity events. So I don't really have a target. Do I muse on it? Yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. I mean, I have to get my calculator out sometimes. And it's good to do that. It's good to visualize. It's good to think, how would my life change if the share price was 25p? It's a healthy thing to do. And I think it's important, this. I learned a long time ago as an investor, private investor, if the management teams of the companies that you run are focused, are just paid salary and don't have much of a shareholding, their sole modus operandi and focus, unless they're very acutely unique individuals, their sole focus is on, can I raise money? And they don't care about what price can they raise money at. They're focused on, can I get money to pay my salary? That's their focus. Now, if you have circa 5% of the shares, as I do in the business, I can make a reasonable amount, for my salary, certainly against the national average salary. I do very well, but I don't have a high salary in comparison to my peers in the space. I have a very good salary, and I'm quite happy with that. The equity returns are what will make the difference in my life, not my salary. And one of the challenges, of course, as a director is if the share price goes up to 25 pence, then of course I should be taking some money off the table because we've generated that value. In the UK, shareholders are not don't like that, and it can cause disproportionate damage to your share price. So you have to think through this very carefully. But I am, without question, alongside you all there who have got, a position in power and thinking, what would happen if it was 25 pence a share?
Okay. Good, thank you. I do tend to agree with you about when the sector and what's coming down the track. I think it's very important, the conversations that we're having today. Everyone in this group who are investors in mining exploration companies, I think we are perhaps a unique or a small bundle of people who could potentially make a lot of money in this space coming. There was just today I saw on Australia 9 News, the main news was actually doing a report on how many more mines are required. There are many more mines are required in Australia. Billions and billions of dollars worth of investment is required for the green economy. So yeah, the main media is sort of just starting to talk about it. So we are early in this sector, in this cycle, I should say.
I think we are, and I think that mirrors what we see as an organisation, and what I see and hear of, through other companies as well as POW, in terms of the almost scramble that's happening amongst certain organisations to secure new pipeline.
Yeah.
It hasn't quite tipped over into an absolute scramble yet, but you can see it building. There's not been an investment by the larger firms, the larger producers in many cases, in an adequate pipeline. There's not been the thought process by industrial manufacturers who need some of these critical metals as to supply. Many of them have thought about it, but have been deterred by the environmental negatives, because we do live in a world which, if you do anything wrong, you get extremely criticised for it. And or if people perceive that you've done something wrong, it can be very damaging. So you get many manufacturers who would like to be involved directly down into metal exploration and production, but don't feel they can take the political risk step of doing that directly. So there just simply hasn't been the investment. And there you have these little junior resource companies like ours. Some more active than others. I mean, we all know a few absolute shockers in London that seem to never do anything. And as an investor, I've got some shares in some of them, in fairness. But there are some other companies, and I think POW is amongst that group, that we do passionately go about our business and try and build our portfolios. And it has been a sitter, in fairness, in the last few years to build the portfolio. It's taken a fair amount of capital to do it. We've been able to raise that on the markets previously, and also with the warrant conversions that provided us with capital. And we've had some internal capital growth on investments, that kind of thing. So for these little companies like ours, we are, without question, in an incredible position. As long as you've got the right projects, and I think we have, we went through some of them at the start. As long as you've demonstrated some real work recently, because a lot of projects have historical work. People are quite wary of that. They want to know if they want to get involved in a project, they want to know that you've done recent work. They want to know what the outcome was, how difficult it was to do the work. What's the operating environment like? Have you experienced it? And I think if you've got this history of, across all your projects, actually doing something, which has been our objective, to do exploration across everything. And we've been criticised for that, because people have said, oh, you're spreading yourselves too thin. Well, the objective was get exploration done, recent exploration across everything, get it properly documented, produce quality materials, marketing communications materials. I have to say that because Mita's sat there staring at me now. And then put your projects into the best position for continuing exploration or external value crystallization. I think we are just in a beautiful position, and we could actually just go and watch a bit of Netflix now, and just wait. That would be we've done so much work. One of the options available to us would be to sit and wait, wait for people to come to us. But we choose not to do that, because Oliver particularly likes working grotesquely hard across the world and pushing himself very hard. But Oliver is much younger, more intelligent, and better looking than me, and so I can understand that.
Okay. Well, I have about 5 questions that I can see that have been sent from the Telegram group. So let's crack on and get these. So, given POW's significant shareholding in Kavanga, what is your view on Mike Moles' retirement and potential impact on the company, given he played such a big technical role to getting the company to where it is at?
Oh, you know what? I see this all the time about different things. You got to plan for. You've got to plan for succession planning. You've got to have a business that's capable of people moving on for a whole variety of reasons, and commonly retirement is an important one. There's lots of people in our industry who have been around for quite some time. It's a bit of a breakneck speed industry at the moment, and the markets are particularly difficult because the regulatory environment in almost everything has got tricky. So, people get to a certain point of age, of operational experience, of energy, enthusiasm, of wanting to do things with their life that, that many times people move on. No organization should be overly dependent on one individual. And the information documentation that they've been able to gather over the years should be accessible. They should be properly stored on internal Dropboxes and that kind of thing, or on internal data rooms. You should have access, if you can, to individuals going forward. It's always good to do consultancy arrangements so that they don't literally just walk out the door. So I don't really mind that much. Almost in every occasion when I see a member of management leaving a company, my main concern is at the moment, just what the answer to the question before: what do we think about the quality of their assets and the potential of their assets? That's the thing that really matters.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is the upcoming drilling at Malopo Farms going to focus on K16? Is any drilling planned for K114? We kind of covered that. The focus is on K16 for the initial term, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we're still in the precision planning phase for this, and we know, as we mentioned, or at least I hope we did in the announcement, the first 2 holes will be circa 500 meters and circa 1,000 meters south of the K16 original hole, and then we'll play it by ear. We may well be able to give more information. We are going to, as we have done on big projects in the past, provide a reasonably regular feed of news to the market on what our plans are, and also the actual operation as we go.
Okay, excellent. There was a recent field trip to Silver Peak. Has this resulted in any firming up of future plan of action?
Well, that was the intention, in fairness, and we're working on that. I have to say, in fairness, a number of different things within our business will be slightly slowed by the progression at Malopo because our energy and time had to go into that. But that was the intention of Oliver going out on site, and we're working on it.
Okay. Are there any non-disclosure agreements in existence? Presumably an NDA once signed would be announced.
No, that's the whole point of an NDA. It's a non-disclosure agreement. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we might, if there was an exclusivity agreement, we would announce it, because we wouldn't sign it unless it was announceable, in fairness. We're not into this business of smoke and mirrors. So no, you generally find with these things that you will say nothing to the wider world until something is done.
Okay. At Malopo, if all goes to plan, how long will the drilling take, and when do you hope to start?
Okay, so again, we wouldn't be too specific on things, because there was a number of different elements to this. Depth of holes, what happens in the field, mobilization time, mobilization between holes or drill locations, operational issues on the way through. The program itself will continue for probably full on from start to absolute end for a number of months, because it's quite a significant program. Now, that it doesn't mean, and we went to great lengths in the announcement to note that we are really focused on making this an efficient exercise, and certainly more efficient than people might have seen recently. The Malopo program back in 2021 was significantly impacted with COVID restrictions and difficulties, including cross-border transportation of samples into South Africa, and a whole variety of other similar type things. That we're not facing the same environments, we trust, this time around. We are taking a different approach, learning from the first program to enhance the operational planning and preparation, and Oliver is right behind that. And we will be making an announcement to market with a lot more information on this.
Okay.
We hope quite soon. So it's absolutely key to it. So don't expect, because I know this is a worry. I do see comments like this, and I think you're just judging power by everyone else's standards. Don't expect that the results from this program won't come till Q1 next year, because in a live exploration program like this, there are multiple points where there may be updates required to market. So anyone who thinks they can just pack away and forget about us until Q1 next year, you got to be careful with that.
Okay. Well, the final question that I can see here, which of these spinouts most excites Paul and why? And I do see that both Tristan and Oliver are listening. So, yeah,
yes,
be careful.
Well, so it's Golden Development Resources is the one that... How can I possibly answer that question when we've got both of them on here? But let me... okay, from a personal perspective, Golden Metal includes Pilot Mountain, which has for a long period of time been a particular favorite project of mine. The world events in 2022 have been extremely sad with the difficulties in Ukraine. And we actually happen to have with Pilot Mountain a significantly advanced tungsten deposit in North America, in Nevada, very safe, secure mining jurisdiction, at a time when America is desperately looking to build its homeland security with regard to critical minerals, and tungsten is one of those. It comes at a time when there is a significant amount of investment in the development of tungsten and other critical mineral opportunities. There is the potential for government grants, there's potential for partnerships, and there's potential for asset acquisitions, in the really important projects. So what we already knew back in 2021, and what I've known for years since working on the board of Thor Mining that previously held the asset, is that Pilot Mountain was a unique opportunity. What I didn't quite anticipate was that the strategic value of Pilot Mountain could increase potentially many-fold just because of world events. What I also didn't fully understand back in 2016, when I first saw Pilot Mountain, was the potential scalability and of that opportunity. So I won't, because it's quite a sensitive time, when you're building up to an IPO, it's difficult to, when you're in the IPO process itself, it's almost impossible to say too many things in an uncontrolled environment about them. You have to be very controlled. It's a requirement that you don't say anything which is inappropriate, which is outside of the listing documentation that you might be using, and all that kind of thing. So we can't really comment too much, but Pilot Mountain, from my personal perspective, is an absolute winner. On First Development Resources, and at the moment it's, I don't know what time it is in Perth, 10 p.m. At the moment. First Development Resources is a unique package. It's in the Patterson region, with the main focus that people have been looking at Wallal project, which is the magnetic bullseye targets that Greatland Gold took advantage of to find Javier on. There's a great deal of excitement with that, because people now see what a major discovery, a gold copper discovery in that type of environment could lead. Well, it's very simple. It could lead to a significant partnership, as they had or have with Newcrest. It can lead to a business that will own circa 30% of a project, having a market cap at a point in its life of 1.2 billion pounds. It can revolutionize and change portfolios and lives, and that's exactly why we brought Wallal project in the mix. Celta project, which is in the Northern Territory, is just up the road from Nolans Bore. I think it's about circa 60-70 kilometers up northwest of Nolans Bore, which is a big deposit held by Arafura Resources, ASX listed with the ticker ARU, and it's just got Independence Group just to the north. It's originally was uranium rare earths. It's now morphing into with the benefit of additional work, other things as well, including we're looking at lithium and other metals. So we're it's quite an opportunity that's really come to life. Now, what I do have to say is that if you look at both these vehicles, Oliver with Golden Metal and its interests and assets, and I really don't have time to talk to you about Golconda, but we really should do, in fairness, because that is quite a unique gold project, and we would love to talk more about that. But both Golden Metal with Oliver and First Development Resources with Tristan have benefited from unique, driven, capable, talented, intelligent, thoughtful people leading them. And we've been privileged as a business at Power to have that quality of individual come to join us and work with the business. They are very different people, and they'll be smiling now as I say this. Very different people, but they match perfectly the propositions that they are dealing with, and the work that they've done in the business so far has been fabulous. Does that help me get out of trouble, Mark?
Yes, I think you managed that one very well, Paul. But yeah, we can judge that later. Now I have a couple of other questions that have come in. Will you continue with other projects if one comes to fruition and you make loads of money?
Well, you know what, I'm sat here now in my jeans with my Power Metal top on, and I have no desire to buy Lamborghinis and super fast cars. I've got no particular desire to have super flash houses and to spend money wildly on all sorts of different things. So I get a lot of passion from my family, of course, who I don't see as much as I should do, and for my work. So I suspect as time goes by, I would like to see a transition towards more family time and less work time. The money side of things is interesting. I was almost banco back in 2008, and it was the resource sector that saved me. It made me particularly wealthy in 2010. It made me quite poor in 2014, and then it made me particularly wealthy in 2017 and quite poor in 2019. It made me quite astonishingly wealthy in 2021, and I've lost quite a bit of that on paper, in fairness, in the last year. So don't assume that you're a genius. I think is what I tell myself on a regular basis, because I'm not. I think patience and longevity, you can make money in this space. Tying into the right companies with the right people running them with the passion is a good idea. You can make a lot of money off the dogs as well, in fairness, and you can make an awful lot of money off bad management teams, because every now and again the share price has to get pumped so they can raise cash. But I do think there is a space for diligent, focused, hardworking, professional people in our industry, and I think there's potential for investors with a very diligent approach to how they invest to do well in our industry too. I see an awful lot of passion about our business today as we've gone up in price and we've become more acceptable to the market. The hard work that delivered the results at Malopo, I suspect, will deliver equally tremendous results across spin-out vehicles and across other exploration projects, and indeed other targets at Malopo. We've been working like this for 3 years as a company, with the current team getting on for a year, and I think it would be delightful if we do well as a business. Obviously, I want to make money because it's the scorecard of the work that we do ultimately. But every single member of our team has options in POW. Most of those options are at 3.25 pence a share, and have a 5p 5 or 10 day VWAP hurdle rate before they can be exercised. So in other words, we have to get our share price above 5p for the team to benefit from their options. Now, I would ordinarily be a bit concerned and worried about that when your share price falls as it has over the last year, but I think we have across our portfolio dramatic potential, so the 5p hurdle honestly doesn't really worry me. But what it means is that if we can drive our share price significantly higher, then all the team will make considerable life adjusting amounts of money, and they will do so almost entirely under EMI, Enterprise Management Initiative, low taxation schemes, which is important because you get crucified on expensive taxation if you're not under a protective scheme, but we put everyone under them, and so they can benefit from that money they generate. Now that will make me smile. If the people that have come to work with me, because I'm just an accountant from Manchester, really. And if they've come to work with me and build this business and carve out something special, then they deserve to make a lot of money.
Okay, good. Very inspiring words there to finish off, Paul. I do have one final question. I don't know if you can comment on this, but could you give an overview or an update on the cash reserves?
Yeah. Oh, my life. I love these questions. Yeah, we do. We do. Thanks for that question. Every quarter, it's in there. If you look at the quarterly report, and the last one we released, I think it was early August, end of July. I think it was end of July. I've got to get this right. We actually put the up-to-date data in there. I'm not, listen, I'm an accountant, and I spent a fair amount of time in risk management. And, you know, theoretically, cash is something that I would worry about more than anyone else. I don't. We've been in control of our financial position in this business since we started. We're in control of it today. And we're, you know, focused on building that balance sheet as fast and furiously as we can. Let me give you one statistic. Well, I actually gave it to you before. You know, we have in one thing that we did through First Class Metals, and from the work of that team at First Class, who are exceptional, 1.7 to 1.8 million pounds of listed investment stock on our balance sheet. That's just from one small part of the work that we've done over the last few years, and there'll be plenty more things like that. But on a day-to-day basis, from a cash perspective, we are in control. Don't you worry.
Okay, well, refer to the quarterlies then for.
Would you actually like the figure? What was the date of the quarterly meeting? 27th of July, and at the bottom, it's the working capital figure is, I think it's 1.88 million. I might be wrong.
Okay.
Let's get this live, because rather than just, because we don't hide away on these things. Okay, so as at 26th of July 22, working capital amounted to 1.88 million. This is available for payment of corporate costs and exploration expenditure across business operations. Pre-IPO vehicle valuation, as at that point, Power Metal has holdings in 3 current vehicles, because remember, at that point, First Class wasn't listed. It was still pre-IPO, so we included it. It wasn't included in our working capital, by the way. But based on pre-IPO valuations for First Class Gold and Metal and First Development, we had 6.9 million of value. And then on top of that, we had projects, investments, and intercompany loans, which is when you do investment in projects overseas, that kind of thing, you would actually loan the local holding co the money. And if it's valid, decent work, it would be capitalized, so included in the total. As at 30th of June 22, Power Metal's remaining assets comprise project investments and intercompany loans amounting to 5.08 million. Yeah, so we actually break down our full financial position every quarter. We'll continue to do so. Why do we do it? Because we're entirely comfortable and we're in control.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. That's good to get that update live there. Well, that concludes all the questions that were sent in. So unless anyone has any final questions they want to put in the group, please do now. We've had circa 50 people pretty much constant throughout this live Telegram Q&A today, which is excellent. And as I said earlier, I think there will be rather a few more over the next few years as we do move into this boom in the commodities space, which is well overdue. So thank you all very much for tuning in today. I hope you've all found it very useful. Thank you very much to Paul Johnson for taking the time to do that for us and for shareholders, and of course Oliver as well there for joining in. As well to answer one of those questions. And Tristan Podas, I hope everything's going well over in Australia for you and the team over there. I have just been told there is perhaps one more question. Can we get that up? I don't see where that question is. I can't actually see that question, Paul. Someone's telling me there was a question, but I can't actually see it anywhere. So let's leave it there. If it pops up later, then I'm sure we can get that answered. So thank you very much. Yeah, it's Paul Johnson, the CEO of Power Metal Resources, for your time today.
It's no problem at all, Mark. And if anyone wants to drop us a line, info@powermetalresources.com. We will be coming, with a lot more opportunities for people to talk in detail about the spin-out vehicles. Obviously, as you push through to the IPO process, that pressure of controlled disclosure, in the sense that you can't really say too much, does lighten. You can release more updates, you can be more operational, and you can communicate far more freely. Really, if anyone wants any assistance whatsoever, we are an open business. I don't know. So there are patches in our life, particularly at the moment, when we might be a little bit unresponsive for a while with all the Malopo focus pressures on us. But both, all of us, Oliver, Golden Metal, and Powell, as exploration manager, and the work he's been doing recently, and Tristan in Australia, they're looking after First Development Resources and driving that company forward. We all very much want to engage with investors as much as possible.
Excellent. Okay, well, we'll leave it there for this open Q&A session. Thank you, Paul, for your time, and no doubt we'll be speaking again soon.
Yep. Thanks all.